What is the secret of Musk and of other PayPal mafia billionaires? PayPal's strategy that Musk later employed to great success with Tesla and SpaceX is called vesting.
In 2012, Dr. Goldman established the International Sports Hall of Fame, the first ever Hall of Fame to recognize athletic achievement in all sports, from boxing to baseball, football to martial arts, wrestling to gymnastics. The International Sports Hall of Fame not only honors world-class athletic achievement, but also considers the candidates for both their charitable contributions and mentoring of our young people. The International Sports Hall of Fame is held annually at the Arnold Sports Festival in Columbus, Ohio, in front of a select list of VIPs and nearly 100 international media from television, magazines, newspapers, and blogs. Past inductees include such sports legends as Archie Griffin, Herschel Walker, Johnny Bench, Earl the Pearl Monroe, Evander Holyfield, Royce Gracie, Ronda Rousey, Apollo Ono, Dan Gable, Bruno Sammartino, Triple H, Ed Cohen, Jack LaLanne, Joe and Ben Weider, Lou Ferrigno, Ronnie Coleman, Linda Murray, Boss Rutan, Jan and Terry Todd, Phil Kagan, Bill Kazmaier, Dr. Tom Rosandich, Anne Maria DeMars, Kurt Angle, Michael J. White, Don the Dragon Wilson, Jason Statham, Cynthia Rothrock, Lee Haney, Blaine Wilson, Randy Couture, Mark Henry, Jim Lorimer, Corey Everson, Franco Colombo, and of course the greatest bodybuilder of all time, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Dr. Bob Goldman has been a big supporter of the sport of bodybuilding and of fitness for many, many years. Ever since I have known this guy, he has been out there promoting health and fitness. I mean, when you look at the video of him performing all those feats of strength and endurance, you would never guess the kind of things that this guy can lift and do. It was really amazing to see that. So I just wanted to know, you're the real thing. And so we want to say thank you for having this award ceremony every year here.
When people mention Dr. Bob, the first thing that I think of is how philanthropic he's been, how giving he's been. He's more on the side of what can I do and give to somebody else to make them feel good, and I love that.
This year's Lifetime Achievement winner is Dr. Bob Goldman, physician, international record holder.
In 2018, Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Arnold Sports Festival Committee honored Dr. Bob with their annual Lifetime Achievement Award in front of a sold-out crowd of 5,000 at the Arnold Classic.
Well, every year we give out the Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's always for people that have contributed a lot, not only to the health and fitness of people in America, but all over the world. And I think there's no one that is better qualified to receive this award than my very good friend Bob.
The Lifetime Achievement Award has been presented annually since 2000 to an individual who has made the most notable contributions to the fitness industry and offered a lifetime of service to the enhancement of sports performance and promotion. Past inductees have included such legends as Joe Weider, Sly Stallone, and Jack LaLanne.
Thank you, and here it is. Let's give him a big, big hand.
Thank you. This was, without question, the most prestigious honor I've received in my lifetime. To receive the same honor as Ben and Joe Weider and Jack LaLanne, Reg Park, Sly Stallone, and others is such a tremendous honor. Really the pinnacle for me.
The Arnold Sports Festival Lifetime Achievement Award is the crown jewel among a long list of awards Dr. Bob has received in recent years. Dr. Goldman has been inducted into numerous martial arts Hall of Fames around the world, and most recently was the recipient of the 2018 Grandmasters Cup. In addition to presenting and accepting awards, Dr. Goldman has ventured into the movie business as both executive producer and actor. Dr. Bob has produced action films with other martial arts legends such as Cynthia Rothrock and Don the Dragon Wilson, and has co-produced movies and shorts which have won numerous film festival awards.
I first met Dr. Bob in Atlantic City at a martial art event, and just his energy and his love for the sport of martial arts overwhelmed me. Dr. Bob is a badass. I mean, he looks very smart and intelligent. Not that he could go out and kick someone's butt, but he really could. And about the time, we were all like hanging out together, we were going to do the Martial Art Kid, and Dr. Bob became one of the producers, which was fun because he was on set a lot. He was involved in the production. He also made a guest appearance in the movie as well. So it was, a movie that we're all proud of, and I think Dr. Bob was proud of it. It won like 5 Dove Awards, and it basically isn't just an action picture. It has a great message to kids not to tolerate bullying.
Another notable addition to Dr. Goldman's robust resume is his appointment in 2018 to the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. Dr. Bob is serving on the council with NFL Hall of Fame running back Herschel Walker, Yankee baseball legends Mariano Rivera and Johnny Damon, and bodybuilding legend and TV star Lou Ferrigno.
I was so excited to see him a part of the President Council because of his knowledge of fitness. And, he's a guy that works. He's a get-done guy, that's the way I look at myself as. And I think that's what made him the person that he is. Bob is just that type. When he says something, you can put it in the bank that it's going to be real and he's going to get out and get it done.
The doctor in Dr. Bob refers to his background as a physician and a PhD. Dr. Goldman is a medical pioneer and entrepreneur with dozens of successful startups to his credit, including the NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine, which literally launched the personal trainer industry. Dr. Goldman, along with his business partner Dr. Ronald Klatz, co-founded the A4M, American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, in 1992. As chairman, Dr. Goldman has helped grow this medical association to the largest of its kind in the world, with over 26,000 members from more than 120 countries across the globe. In 2014, A4M launched postdoctoral medical education divisions, which offer education that ranges from medical certifications to fellowship programs in metabolic and nutritional medicine, integrative medicine, aesthetics, integrative cancer, and stem cell therapies. Dr. Goldman partnered with Tarsus Group and formed the Tarsus Medical Group Division. Tarsus is an international business-to-business media group with interests in exhibitions, conferences, education, publishing, and online media. Tarsus is a market leader in conferences and exhibitions, including the Dubai Air Show, which booked over $113 billion in sales in 2018. Dr. Goldman is an opinion leader whose insights on fitness and medicine have influenced decision makers and power brokers worldwide. The BOA Forum for Asia, attended by Dr. Robert Goldman, World Medical Chairman, is one of the most powerful economic and political gatherings in the world, bringing together leaders of numerous nations, with such notables over the years as American Presidents George Bush, Bill Clinton, and G.W. Bush, Prime Ministers, Presidents and kings of numerous nations, head of the United Nations, International Monetary Fund, multi-billionaire icons such as Bill Gates, George Soros, the Rothschild and Rockefeller families, and even superstars like NBA China great Yao Ming and martial arts action movie star Jet Li. It is one of the most exclusive, impactful annual conferences held globally. Dr. Robert Goldman was a VIP presenter on the prestigious Life Sciences panel in 2013, along with heads of state, prime ministers, and 2 Nobel Prize laureates in medicine. In 2014, Dr. Goldman chaired his own session, The Healthcare Service Industry, the Driving Force of Economic Growth as a New Trend. On August 19, 2019, Dr. Robert Goldman was bestowed with the rank of Knight Hospitaller in the Equestrian Order of Michael Archangel. The Sacred Order of St. Michael Archangel, under the Sovereign Imperial and Royal House of Gassan, is a non-religious and temporal order of chivalry and knighthood. It is one of the oldest, most respected, and recognized orders of chivalry in the whole world. It is documented that the Gassanides were the first knight protectors of the Holy Land under the Byzantine Empire, around 500 years before the First Crusade and the creation of the first orders of chivalry. His Royal Highness the Prince is the legitimate heir of one of the oldest, if not the oldest, Christian knights in history. The order is recognized by heads of states and by the Catholic Church, and is in special consultative status with the United Nations. Dr. Goldman was knighted for his lifetime of philanthropic service in the fields of medicine, scientific inventions and innovation, sports, martial arts, and youth mentorship.
What we do is we recognize the chivalric qualities in the heart of the person that we bestow the knighthood. To thank Dr. Goldman for his wonderful charity work and his promotion on health is my honor to honor him. So, without further ado, please. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Spirit, St. Michael. I'd like to congratulate Dr. Goldman for becoming a Knight Hospitaller of the Equestrian Order of Michael Archangel. It's a great privilege for us for having him for all his work in health, in charity. So it's a great privilege to be here. Honoring him, again, is an honor for me.
Dr. Goldman's remarkable life has been fueled by a relentless pursuit of his goals and a seemingly boundless energy to achieve them, a trait that Dr. Bob recognized in himself at a very early age.
The first day in elementary school, they were doing pull-ups. I didn't even know what a pull-up was. And I grabbed the pull-up bar and I broke the school record the first time I touched the pull-up bar. And then I said, wow, this is something that I'm kind of good at. So then even at the age of 11 or 12 years old, I started training. And at that time, Jack LaLanne was on TV. I was just a kid. I used to watch Jack on TV. He was a real initial inspiration to want to do things that he was able to do. So I would then look at the records in every school from elementary school on and go to break every calisthenic and fitness and endurance record in each of those schools. I set my first world record when I was 14 years of age. I was actually in my gym at school and I was doing sit-ups and I just kept going and going. And I was just doing 1,000 after 1,000, and when I finished, I found that, hey, wow, you did more than is in the Guinness Book of World Records. And so I went through that process of submitting and going for world records through Guinness World Book. At that time, world records in sit-ups were done straight leg, where your legs would be straight out in front of you. You go into the zone because if you're doing sit-ups for 12, 13, 14 hours, you need to put yourself in a kind of trance in order to keep going, because there's no break and you have to even drink fluid while you're going up and down, sort of like long distance or super distance runners. The sit-up record, I could basically just keep going and going. So I'd sort of pick a number I liked. So I liked an even number of 13,500. So the record at that time was 10,000, so I just kept going till I hit an even number. I could have kept going. I could have done 14,000 or probably 15,000. But I felt that I had beat the previous record by 3,500 sit-ups, so I figured that was okay. With the handstand push-up record, it's a little bit different. When you're doing handstand push-ups, you can only stay inverted for a certain amount of time because the blood is rushing to your head and you get really dizzy and it's very difficult. Also, there's a lot of stress and strain, and when you hit the ground, you have to perfectly lock in because you know you can only be inverted for a certain period of time. After a few minutes, you're going to start to get woozy. So it's not even a strength matter at that point, it's a stability matter. You can't stay inverted for that long because you're just going to pass out. And generally that's what happens at the end. You literally almost pass out.
He was always just really driven to do the sets and reach the goals, because a lot of those goals were self-imposed. Didn't really come from the family. It was pie in the sky, like we didn't believe it could happen and didn't think that he would be so driven to make it happen. But he was a maniac. Every spare moment, he's banging out another set.
The world record that was probably the one that was the most contested was a handstand push-up record. In order to do handstand push-up records as they were officially accepted, and I had to do them, is freestanding. You go down, there's no wall, no brakes, and you have to touch nose to the floor and hands in full extension. Otherwise, it didn't count as one repetition. So it's very strict. So you have a gymnastic official and an official counter. So you have to do these things properly or the rep is not counted. First time I did 48, next time I did 171, next time I did more and more. So at the end I did 361 consecutive handstand push-ups. What would be interesting is sometimes I would break the world record and somebody else somewhere else in the world would set another world record beating me, and in the same year I'd have to go back and try and beat that person again. So there was one year where I broke it, had somebody else break mine, had to go back and break it again, got broken again, and went back again to set it again. So I was able to successfully break it and get listed in Guinness Book of World Records a number of times. But when you're competing against the whole planet, against everyone in the world, a lot can happen in the space of 12 months. As a teenager, I applied for a job at Jack Lane Health Club. I just set a bunch of world records at that time, so I got a job as an instructor. Realized at that time there were no certified personal fitness trainers. There wasn't even really a training program for the people that worked in the gym. You just sort of would hand the people the weights or clean the mirrors or vacuum the rugs. That was your job. And at that point in time, since I was setting world records, the owners of the club chains decided to use me as sort of the poster boy on the promotion materials and ads in the New York Daily News, and the New York Post, and in these different mailers that were going out. In one envelope, they sent this out to 200,000 people. I mean, I had people stopping me on the street. I was sort of like the poster boy for the health clubs. When I was a teenager in the gyms, and this was a different world back then. Steroids were not illegal. There was no banned. They didn't even have drug tests for anabolic steroids at that time period. And I noticed that we would see needles and bottles and pills and things left around the gym, but we really didn't think much about it. And then I had someone who was teaching me how to lift weights who ended up having not only serious health problems that died, and I was concerned that the anabolic steroids may have played a role in that. So I began my research independently, and out of these many hours I spent in the libraries pulling old articles came my first book, which was called Death in the Locker Room, Steroids in Sport, which went on to be the #1 first major expose on the use of drug use in sports. And it was before medical school. I was still in college at the time. At that same point in time, I ended up meeting Dr. John Ziegler. Dr. Ziegler was the American team physician in the 1950s who was with the U.S. Olympic team, the weightlifting team, and he went to the Eastern Bloc nations for a world championship, and he noticed how the female athletes were very masculinized and the male athletes were much stronger. The East Germans and the Russians and so on were very powerful athletes, and they were all of a sudden where our American athletes always used to win all the records, used to beat everybody. The time of Paul Anderson, when our athletes were just unparalleled in the world, and all of a sudden that thing just flipped like almost overnight. So the Russian team physician confided in him that they're trying these new hormone drugs, these testosterone drugs on their athletes, on their male and female athletes. And back then, Dr. Ziegler said, wow, they're going to use this as a weapon, using sport as a weapon against the free world, against America. So he came back to the U.S. in the 1950s, worked with Ciba Geiger Pharmaceuticals to come up with the first, what we call gold standard in anabolic steroids, methandrostenolone, commonly known as Dianabol. So the steroid epidemic in sport was born. And he wished that he could put the genie back in the bottle, but of course he couldn't. And I ended up becoming his protege student, studying under him the last years of his life. And Death in the Locker Room came out 1 week prior to him passing away, and I dedicated the book to him. Years later, I ended up doing a report on anabolic steroids, which I submitted to the Sport Federation to be published. And the medical committee at that time said that this was a report based on fantasy and not properly scientifically supported, even though it had almost 300 medical references associated with it. So they prevented this from being published. And Ben Weider, who started the International Federation of Bodybuilders, felt bad that it wasn't getting published, but he said, one day we'll publish this together. Well, kind of ironically, several years later, I ended up becoming chairman of the IFBB Medical Committee and replacing all these other people. The report ended up getting published and was at that time the most popular report in the 50-year history of the Federation and was translated into 36 languages. And then I worked with the Federation to initiate the very first drug testing protocols ever held in the history of bodybuilding back in the 1980s. So I sort of got entered into yet another whole world where we go from sport and now into the world of drug testing and dope control and education. Shortly after that time period in the 1980s, there were so many equipment companies popping up. Fitness equipment, home fitness equipment was becoming very popular, but there was no objective review of what this equipment was, how it should work, what was safe. So I started a project called the High Technology Fitness Research Institute. And we sort of became like the UL lab of fitness equipment. So I was intimately involved over the years with many of the things that we see around us today in the gyms. So this led to another book called The E Factor, The Ergogenic Factor, covering every category of fitness equipment, rowing machines, treadmills, multi-station devices, every device you can imagine, and going through in detail the positive and negatives, again, bringing into the public arena the things that are good for you and the things you need to exercise a bit of caution with. In the late 1980s, and I had worked in the health clubs for years, there were no certified personal trainers. And so I wrote the first exam, what was considered the first certification for personal fitness trainers back in the late 1980s. And formed with myself and Dr. Ron Klatz, we formed NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, which today has gone on to be one of the top certifications, sort of a gold standard certification for personal fitness trainers, because there were no certified personal trainers or a CPT. That was something I had trademarked. And then, of course, within just a year of doing the very first certification ever held for personal trainers, over 270 other groups came out of the woodwork to form their own certification. So when you start something that's new and interesting, you literally birth an whole industry, and that's what happened.
And what Dr. Goldman did was he created a foundation and a structure. He made it where everybody had to be licensed and certified. Not just anybody can be a trainer. You have to be a certified personal trainer. And then all of a sudden the whole fitness industry boomed. You know, a lot of it is because of Dr. Goldman. It just completely legitimized fitness.
Working with my long-term business partner, Dr. Ronald Klatz, we were very concerned about what we would see in emergency medicine. We always see people doing CPR, and as doctors, we're all trained in CPR. What we found is that 95% of the people died whether you did CPR or not. So we actually developed and did the first whole array of patents in brain resuscitation, where we knew if we keep the brain alive long enough, the heart can hang around for 20, 30 minutes. The brain, we only had 5 or 6 minutes. So if we could chill down the temperature of the brain or infuse different chemicals in or preserve the brain or do some type of brain resuscitation technique, we could keep the brain alive long enough to get them to the emergency care facility. So we wrote the whole array of original patents in brain resuscitation technologies. And then over time, these things became part of the mainstream medicine with brain cooling and so on. We also knew about preserving organs, that if we could chill down the organs, we could preserve them longer so they can then be transplanted. At one time, we were overseeing a patent portfolio of over 150 patents in the areas of brain trauma, emergency medicine, blood products, and so on. So we were very aggressive in taking that technology and saying, how can we turn it into something that will really save lives? Today, the organ resuscitation and rejuvenation technologies that we've developed are now saving tens of thousands of lives around the world, because we are now able to take organs and reanimate them so they can be transplanted to people. In the late 1980s, we flew 12 doctors to Chicago, all specialists in different areas of medicine, and we said, you know, we have to change. We have to develop medicine for the future. We have to develop a whole new paradigm of medicine. So we developed the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, actually came up with a term, anti-aging, which is now used around the world. And so anti-aging medicine was born with just 12 doctors, and today has evolved into the largest preventive medical society in the world. We do conferences globally, and we train tens of thousands of doctors a year. In fact, we've trained over 100,000 physicians and scientists on site at these conferences. And we were getting governments, ministries of health, ministries of sport to be involved. And again, going back to the bodybuilding industry, that gave the entrees, because during those years of bodybuilding, I got to meet the ministers of sport, the ministers of health, and prime ministers and heads of government in these nations all over the world. So I was then able to use those contacts for our medical federation to help us grow globally so quickly at the highest level. And that's what's allowed us to expand and to grow into the organization we are today.
I've known Bob since we were teenagers. We worked together as lifeguards in a resort in upstate New York. He was from Far Rockaway. I was from East New York, probably the two roughest sections of Brooklyn. And I'll tell you, even then, Bob stood out. He was a terrific athlete. He was a martial artist. He did calisthenics, whether it was a push-up record or a pull-up record or a handstand push-up or an inverted upside-down reverse handstand push-up. He was always going for some record of some kind. And beyond the athletic thing, I have to say, Bob was successful in his business undertakings, notwithstanding a modest background that I also share, so I have some appreciation for what he had to overcome. Bob has bootstrapped himself in the area of athletics, medicine, and of course his business career.
My goals now are to try and change the way the aging process takes place. I think that people should be healthy and strong well into 100 to 120 years of age. We're really on the brink of some very exciting things with the advent of stem cells, nanotechnology, genetic engineering, gene therapy. We're in the most amazing time in medicine and life that this planet has ever seen. And that's what's really exciting, to live in a time period when the impossible is truly possible.
In a lifetime filled with firsts in both athletics and business, Dr. Goldman will be the first to tell you that health is his most valuable asset.
Everyone needs to do some type of physical activity every day, no matter what their age. Your health is your wealth. Your health is the most valuable possession you will ever own.